Hey guys, so today I am doing a do my makeup with me while I do a wrap up my recent reads while I do my makeup video. I've done this one other time and you guys seem to like it, and you guys know that I did makeup videos for like 12 years before I started doing book content, so we are joining my content together. I'm actually really interested in this current discussion about seasons and what your season is and your color palette is. And what's so interesting is that I always knew from even before I started YouTube that I was a plum, purple, cool toned person, right? I always wore plum makeup. My favorite eyeshadow was MAC Sketch, which is a purple color. And then the trends changed and I started wearing a ton of warm tones, like warm oranges. I feel like the Kardashians really pushed this warm toned orange thing. And so I started wearing that makeup even though I really did not like the colors on me. And I was recently thinking about my colors and what I look good in. And which is funny because I'm wearing an orange shirt. Okay, same tank top, different color. So it's black. So anyways, I have had this theory about me being a winter for years, right? And so I started doing my makeup in winter shades again recently and just decided, you know what, those are my colors. I always like how my makeup looks when I wear winter shades, and I always get so many more compliments on my makeup when I wear winter shades. Now I have this theory because I feel like a lot of people don't know what their color palette is, and I have a theory on what I think makes a color palette. Now obviously there's exceptions to every rule, right? Not everybody has the same color palette based on my theory, but this is what I think. People with lighter skin like me, I have pale skin, but I have naturally dark hair. This is my natural color right here. I had this hair color as a kid, right? People with my skin tone and dark hair as a child tend to be winters, okay? But then people that have naturally dark hair as children but have tanner skin tend to be autumns. And then people who were towheads as kids and babies, but they never grew up and their hair color never changed. They remained natural blondes their entire life, or strawberry blondes or redheads with really pale skin. They tend to be spring. And then summers tend to be people who were born towheads, right? They were little kid towheads, but then as they aged, their hair darkened to a sandy brown color. Those people tend to be summers. Tell me I'm wrong. I am not wrong. I feel like that is usually the case, and I am standing by it. We're gonna be doing winter makeup, which is darker jewel tones. Everything is in the cool tone range. And I just feel like those colors look the best on me. So we are going to be doing that today. And I'm going to wrap up the books that I haven't talked about yet on my channel, which has been a really long time. There are so many flippin' books. So I'm going to wrap up the ones that I can. And then I'm just going to stop when I finish my makeup. And then whatever is left over, I'll just wrap up in a future video. So the first book I have to talk about is The Indifferent Stars Above, The Harrowing Saga of the Donner Party Bride. So I love reading nonfiction on audio. I've talked about this before, but it is about the Oregon Trail, right? And I've always known about the Donner Party. I've always kind of heard about it. And I think the thing you hear about the most is that they were cannibals, right? So I was interested because I was well, what's the story behind the Donner Party? And basically the story is about the Donners and then the other people that were kind of in that party with them. And it follows this girl named Sarah who was in that party and their trek across the United States. And they were told that instead of going to Oregon, they should go to California. And they took this man's advice, who was kind of a scammer. He did not know what he was talking about, but he liked to pretend that he knew what he was talking about. But he told him to take this certain trail to get to California, and that it was the best trail. They were gonna get there really safe and all that kind of stuff. And they believed him, but he didn't know what he was talking about. And it was really, really difficult, and they couldn't make it basically to California, taking this trail that he said was the best trail. It talks about their journey, it talks about how they ran out of food, it talks about how they were stuck in snowstorms. This book was insanely fascinating, okay? Like, I'm not a history person. Like, history was my least favorite subject in school. I just never was really that fascinated by history. And this book just makes you, it's kind of like those books that make you just so grateful that you were born in the time that you were born in. You know what I mean? Like, because I cannot imagine living in this time. I don't understand how these people survived. And yes, they did eat each other, but I think what the interesting thing about this book was kind of like seeing how these people just like constantly were having to grieve their families, right? Like their husbands, their moms, their dads, their babies. Like, kids would just wander off and they would just disappear. Like, these women were having babies like all the time, and like their kids would just wander off, or like one would get ran over by the wagon. Like, things were just constantly happening to these poor people, and I'm like, it's just bizarre to me. And like, these women would marry multiple times in their life. Like, their husband would die and then they'd marry again, and then that husband would die and then they'd marry again, and these people lived such short lives. This book is a must read, even if you don't like history like me. I'm not a history person. I don't read a lot of history novels, and I think this one's worth it, even if you're not a history person. I feel like there were some slow spots in it, honestly. Like, it's not all interesting, but there was definitely some interesting parts. And I never listen to my audiobooks in the hot tub, but this book, I was sitting in my hot tub for like 2 hours just listening to this audiobook, and I did not want to get out of the hot tub because I was so interested in this book that I literally sat in my hot tub for 2 hours listening to this book on audio. So, highly recommend it. It's really fascinating, and even if you're not a history person, I think that you would find this really, really interesting. Highly recommend. I think I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't quite 5 because, like I said, there was some slow spots in it, but like, fascinating read. The next book I read was House of Flame and Shadow, which we all know how I feel about that. I gave it 3 stars at first, but I lowered it down to 2 stars, you guys. Like, I couldn't, the more I thought about this book, the more mad I got about it. And it's so hard, I think, for me to give Sarah J. Maas a low rating because she's one of my favorite authors, but I couldn't lie to myself. There was so much about this book. It wasn't just that it was boring, but when a book is actually poorly written, or there's things about it that I genuinely dislike, and I'm just like, why did you write this that way? Or why did you write this character that way? Then I can easily give a book 2 stars. And this had such clear reasons as to why I didn't like it. It wasn't just boring. And so I had to give it 2 stars. And it's so sad to me because Sarah J. Maas is my girl, and I was just like so disappointed in that book. So if you guys want to hear more about my review of that book, I will link the video down below because I did a whole video talking about it. Next book I read was The Worst Wingman Ever. This is the Improbable Meet Cute #2 by Abby Jimenez. So these are like little novellas. So this was flippin' adorable. So this is a really short novella, and they're basically just like really cute, like meet cutes. But the thing about Abby Jimenez, the way, you guys know this if you've read Abby Jimenez, she always has like side plots that are like, that add so much to the story, but they don't have to do with romance, but they're like these deeper, more like heartfelt or hard-hitting side plot lines. And it's always what makes her books just hit so much harder than like regular like rom-coms or contemporary romances. And even though this book was only like 60 pages or something like that, this had that exact same thing in it that she always does, and it made it so good. Like, I wanted so much more to this book because it was that cute, for one, and the side story was so endearing. Like, this book, like I said, was only like 60 pages, but I highlighted so many quotes in this book, and I wanted this book to be a full novel so bad because I just wanted to know more about these characters and where they were going, and it was just a really, really, really good little novella. I highly recommend it. Like, Abby Jimenez does no wrong in my eyes. Every book that I've read by her has been amazing. So highly recommend this if you want like a really quick read, or you want to up your like, you know, amount of books you've read, or you're trying to hit your goal or whatever. That is the one because it's really good and it's really, really short. So look at what I'm using, you guys. This is from the MAC Villains collection. Do you guys remember this? From like 2011 or something like that, or 2012. I bought all of this stuff, and I know that this is probably expired beyond belief, but I'm using it. I am like committed to using these old products that I bought that I like didn't want to use, or like I bought so much makeup that I just never used it. But I love this color because it's a winter. This is a winter shade, or like a summer shade, I guess. This could be either. It's like a cool toned pink, and it looks really, really good on me. So I'm using the shade. I don't care if it's expired. Expired makeup never really does anything to my skin anyways, so I don't really care. I mean, if you have sensitive skin, I can understand not wanting to use expired makeup, but it's never really affected my skin, so I use it anyways. So the worst wingman ever is about this girl who, her grandma is on hospice, and she has to go visit her grandma every day, and she starts getting these notes on her car. So his roommate wanted to leave a note on his girlfriend's car or something like that for like Valentine's Day, and he tells his friend, can you please leave this on my girlfriend's car? And so he takes this note down and he puts it on the wrong car, I guess. And she gets the note and she's like, what the heck? Like, who's this person? Like, is this my secret admirer? Because it's kind of like a love note or whatever. And then they start like leaving notes for each other. And then this guy that accidentally leaves this note on her car, like fixes her flat tire for her, and like it becomes like this really cute thing, but they don't know who each other is. And that's kind of like the meet cute situation of this story, and it is adorable. It's adorable. I highly recommend it. What is the next book? Heard It in a Love Song. Okay, so this book, so I'm using the Lust for Dusk palette, and I like this one because it has lots of plums. So I use this one, Take the Lead, for like my crease color. I use Serve Chilled for my outer V color. It has this really cute color here, the Mixer. It's kind of like a pinky color. So like this line right here is really good for winters. Okay, what book did I say I was on next? Heard It in a Love Song. This book, my part is so crooked. Oh well. So this book was cute, but it was really vanilla. Like if you're looking for the most vanilla book you've ever read in your life, read this one. Now it's not necessarily that it's bad. It was just so basic. So this is about a girl who gets a divorce from her longtime husband, and she's a musician. So she was in like this like lowbrow band, right? Like she played like local shows, and she was kind of like small town famous, right? And she met this guy at a show, and then they dated, and then they got married, right? But then he turns out to like not be the best guy. They just don't mesh well together, so she divorces him. But she's like in her mid-30s. Now she's like lonely and single, and she's like newly divorced, and it's like a really difficult, you know, thing to navigate, as anybody who knows who has been through a divorce. Well, she is a elementary school music teacher, and she ends up meeting this guy who is a parent of one of her students. And he's in the current breakup of a marriage, right? So he's like gonna get a divorce. And they meet each other, and they kind of start like showing interest in each other and like dating, and they have to kind of maneuver this current divorce of him, and it's kind of her story and her divorce and like how she's dealing with it. So it's basically just like two divorced millennials looking for love, basically. And it's extremely basic. Like this is like the most realistic story you could ever read. Like this has nothing in it that's like exciting. It's just extremely bland. That's the best way to go about like explaining this story. And the interesting thing too about this is it's like time jumpy. So it goes to her timeline, and it kind of talks about like her relationship with her ex-husband, and then it goes back in time to his timeline about his relationship with his current wife that he's divorcing. And then it's like time jumpy and character jumpy, and if you don't like that writing style, this is definitely that type of writing style. Now the people that I think would like this book are people that are going through a divorce or are recently divorced, and they just kind of need to navigate it, or just kind of read something that gives them a little bit of hope. This would be a great book for you, and I could see who would like this book. It's like for a very specific audience, but if you're like into rom-coms and like meet cutes and like these really like steamy or like romantic or just out of this world storyline, this is not for you. There's no steam in it. There's no like spicy scenes in it. It's like the most vanilla thing ever. So it was cute, but like I definitely don't feel like I needed to read this. But like let's say I was divorcing or recently divorced, I would have totally loved this book. I think it would have been a great little book to like just give me some hope, you know what I mean? I mean, it was cute. There were things about it that was cute, but I don't know if I would recommend this necessarily to just anybody. But that cover though is gorgeous. I love the cover. It's like one of the cutest covers. That's kind of why I bought it, I'm not gonna lie. It just wasn't the most interesting little book I've ever read, you know? Oh my god. You guys, this next book that I'm going to talk about, this could easily be my favorite book of the year. Like, I adore this book. When I was reading this book, I've never read a book like this before, to be honest. Like, so, A Dowry of Blood, you guys have probably heard about this book a lot. And I had wanted to read it for like a really long time, but there was just a part of me that just was kind of putting it off. And I didn't think it was going to be like all that amazing. But I was wrong. This literal book is one of the most beautifully written books that I've ever read. So this book is about this girl, Constanta, and she was dying. And this was like a long time ago. I don't know the exact years of everything, but she was dying, laying in the dirt, dying in this war. And Dracula, who is not named in this book, but it's supposed to be Dracula, he found her dying in the ground and he changed her into a vampire and they fell in love with each other, right? Well, this book is written in second person and it's Constanta writing to Dracula about why she killed him. And this book is so beautifully done. When I tell you that I was reading this book like I was a vampire, like in my head, the way that this book is, like the way you're speaking this book in your head feels like you're speaking like a vampire would speak. Like, it's so poetic. The prose are so stunning. I can't describe the experience of reading this book. It's beautiful. And the characters, oh my god, the characters are one of the things that I love the most about this book because the thing about these characters is that you hate them at first. Like, the way that the author makes you feel everything that this main character, Constanta, feels throughout this book. Like, when she felt jealous, I felt rageful jealousy. When she felt happy, like, I felt happy. When she felt sad, I felt sad. Like, it's one of those books where she's so good at writing that she just makes you feel everything that the main character feels. And so when these other side characters are introduced, like, I hated them. Like, I was so jealous, just like Constanta was feeling in the time, and I was just like, oh my god, I hate these characters. But the way that these characters grow on you, and like the way that you see these characters like develop, and the found family that's formed, and like seeing how just, oh my god, it's so beautiful. Now, this book is erotic. I wouldn't say that this book is like smutty though. That's the thing, is like this is like a different kind of steam where this like sex scenes are more for like character growth and like plot development and like, you know, character development and the relationships between the characters. It's not really like smutty for like you're trying to read like steam. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just a very erotic book. And the thing about this book too, what was I gonna say? Why did that thought just go in my brain and then like instantly left my brain? Oh, the way that she wrote the vampires in this book were so spot on to how you think of a vampire. Like, you know how some vampires you're like, okay, like Twilight, they're like vegetarian vampires, but then they're like so loving. Or like, vampires are never how vampires actually would be in real life. The way she depicted these vampires is exactly how vampires would be. Like, they're indulgent, they're sensual, they're kind of dramatic and over the top in the way that they are. They have no empathy whatsoever. They're impulsive. They're like erotic. Like, there's just the way that she depicts these vampires is just exactly how you would picture vampires in any story. And she was able to do it so well in this while still making the characters likable and like a little bit human, while also making them completely not human because of their just psychopathic tendencies. They're so good. You guys have to read this book. I'm telling you, it's literally one of the best books I've ever read, and this is easily one of my favorite books of all time. Like, the second I got done reading this book, I literally wanted to read it again. Like, I've been craving reading this book again, even though I just read it really recently. Like, there's something about it that makes you want to just like crawl back into this book. And I feel like the second time around would make the book even better than the first time around, because like the things that you find out kind of at the end and kind of how you see the characters progress you want to like reread it to like see the characters early on again and like compare them to like how you know that they're going to end up. I don't know. I love it so much. Is it dark? Yes. Is it erotic? Yes. Like, it's definitely not like a PG book by any means, but it is worth it. It is worth it. And it is a book I'm going to revisit multiple times. This was a gold star. This was my first 5-star of the year, and it got a gold star, which you guys know gold stars are very rare, but this one got a gold star. It's literally one of my favorite books of all time. The next book also got a 5 stars, but if I'm being honest, it's probably more of like a 4.75. It's not quite 5, but I gave it 5 on Goodreads because if I'm gonna give a book 4.75, it deserves to have a 5 stars on Goodreads. Like, I'm not gonna give it 4 stars. But if I'm being completely honest, it should be a 4.75. And the only reason I gave this book a 4.75 was the writing style. But it is Halfasoul by Olivia Atwater. So I had heard so many good things about this book, and everyone said it was like cozy. I don't really get that. I don't really see this book as cozy. It's more of like a fairy tale, whimsical vibe. Like, if you liked Once Upon a Broken Heart, then you will like this book because it has similar vibes. So I've been really into taping off my winged eyeliner lately and using foundation. Not foundation. Why can't I talk? Talking about 2 different things at once is like confusing me. Eyeshadow. I've been using eyeshadow for my winged eyeliner. So this book is about a girl who, when she's little, I think like her mom or something like pawns her soul off because she like needs something. So she like says, you can have my firstborn's soul, right? And she tells the fae, this fairy guy, that he can have her firstborn's soul. And so he comes to collect her soul when she's a little girl. And when he does this, he was actually only able to take half of her soul because they fight back, right? And so this girl lives her life with half of a soul. And the interesting thing about this is it's so interesting the way that she wrote this character, because this character has like half of all of her feelings, right? So it's like she feels no fear, she feels no anger, no sadness, no embarrassment. Like, every emotion that a person would have, it's like she doesn't have that feeling. She only has like a little tiny inkling of those feelings, but she never feels full emotion. So she kind of is just like this funny little quirky girl who just, no one really likes her because she's kind of weird. And because she never feels embarrassment, so she'll like do things that like would be embarrassing, but she doesn't really realize that they're embarrassing because she doesn't feel embarrassment, which I love that. It made for such an interesting character. And the thing that made me absolutely adore this book was the relationship between the love interest and this girl. So the love interest is this magician, and he is kind of a weirdo too. He has like this weird, funny little quirky personality. And no one really likes him because he's just kind of like weird, kind of unlikable, kind of just has like that really harsh personality. And because the main character doesn't feel emotions the same way, he doesn't really affect her like he affects other people, right? And so they end up falling in love, and the way that these characters just work well together because of their personalities was so well done. Like, I feel like the author did such a good job at like making these characters work and made their personalities work so good together. I feel like that's so hard to do, right? Especially when you have 2 characters that are kind of unlikable in their own way, but because they work so flawlessly together, like their personalities just mesh, it makes it so endearing. That is what this book is. It's 2 weirdo characters that work so flawlessly together. The scene where they finally like confess their love for each other, like every romance I feel like has that scene, right? Where they finally kind of like tell each other how they feel. Some books do it well, and some books do it in just like, it's like, oh, that was cute, but like it's nothing that you're gonna like remember, you know? This book scene where they finally confess how they feel about each other was the cutest scene ever. Like, it was one of my favorite love confession scenes I've ever read. It was beautiful, it was romantic, it was sweet, it was like whimsical and enchanting, and like I was just picturing like a beautiful movie scene. It kind of had like Labyrinth ball scene vibes, but like romantic. Oh, it was so good. And the ending of this book was really sweet. Like I loved the ending. Like everything about this book was flippin' adorable. The only reason I gave this book 4.75 was, like I said, the writing style. So I'm not a Regency person. Like I don't read Regency books. And I have to say that I found the language to be kind of difficult to read. Like I prefer books that are just like your eyes just glide over the page, right? Like it reads like butter. And I feel like with this Regency language, it was kind of hard for me to read the book like butter. And I think probably if you read a lot of Regency, you are used to it, but because I don't, it was kind of just not my favorite. It was just, didn't read like butter to me. And I kind of started getting used to it by the end. See, isn't that pretty? Like a nice soft little wing with the tape and eyeshadow. And it like blends up into your eyeshadow so it doesn't look really harsh. Like I just think it's so pretty. And then I just take a little brush and I blend it out. But here's the thing about this author is I don't know if she got lucky with this book because of the characters. Like I said, I love the characters in this book. It's kind of, I think, what made me like this book so much was the quirkiness of the characters and how well their relationship developed and how perfect they were for each other. Like it was just amazing. And I sort of feel like maybe she just got lucky. I do want to try out the next ones in this series because I do want to see if she's just really, really good at writing like chemistry between characters. But I kind of feel like maybe it was just luck. I want to try them just in case. Let me know if you guys have read the second and third in this trilogy and what you thought of it. It's not like I think they're companions, so you don't have to like read them in order, but yeah, I just thought halfasoul was just the most endearing little thing ever, and this will always be like a forever favorite couple because they were so funny and quirky and their personalities just worked so well together. I loved it. And like, I love enchanting, whimsical fairy tale like stories. I just love it. And I actually didn't know that I liked this until I read Once Upon a Broken Heart. But that just enchanting feeling of a story that feels kind of like a fairy tale is just something that I really, really love. And I think that that's kind of where people get the cozy vibe. Like I guess I can see that a little bit, but I love that. I love it. It's just so magical. And this book definitely had like that magical quality to it at times. Those are the only books I'm going to talk about in this video because I am pretty much done with the makeup except for my lips, but I can't talk and do my lips at the same time. So I'm not going to sit here and try to like review a book while I do my lips. So I use this for my, it's like my primer, and it's the Pillow Lips by It Cosmetics. And it's kind of like a tinted lip balm, is kind of what it's like. So I put that on first, and then I use the Palladio lip liner in Sand, and I line. And I line really lightly, but I like to make my upper lip go a little bit higher in the center and my lower lip go a little bit lower in the center. And I feel like that lip balm kind of like makes the lip liner go on smoother. And then I use the Palladio. This is my favorite lipstick of all time. This lipstick is my favorite lipstick. I got it for my mom for Christmas one year. It is Palladio's lipstick in Brownie. I'm telling you guys, buy this if you are a winter like me. It is a beautiful color. Has a little bit of warmth because I don't like pink lipstick. I hate pinks on me. Even though I'm a winter, I don't like pink. But this is like a cooler brown versus like a warmer brown without being pink because I don't like pink. So it's like the perfect color for winters that don't like pink. Okay, you guys, so this is my makeup. Let's spray it. So I'm going to use the Pixi Makeup Fixing Mist. I just like mists because they make things look less powdery. And this smells like my grandma, you guys. Like, I don't know what my grandma used to wear that smelled like this, but every time I spray this, I think of my grandma. I don't know why. But it's not like a grandma smell, it's just my specific grandma. I don't know why. Alright guys, so this is my makeup. This is me in my winter look. Like I said, I feel like I just look better in purples, plums, and cool toned makeup. I just look better. And I always think I look prettier when I wear these colors. Like whenever I look at myself like in my car mirror, I look better. And when I wear oranges and like warm browns, I always feel like I look kind of sick. these colors make me look like healthy, which is really, really interesting. And I don't know why I ever stopped wearing these colors. It was like I just was following the trends and just kind of forgot that I liked myself in plums better. It's weird. Now, if you guys have never like done your color like mapping or whatever it's called, definitely do it. Like, I feel like you should wear whatever you want to wear or whatever you feel comfortable in, but I think though that there's so much truth to color mapping and knowing what your colors are and what season you are. And if you have no clue how to figure this out, use my theory that I gave you at the beginning, and then maybe do a couple of those like filters and stuff and kind of see, you know, what you think. But I feel like my theory is pretty spot on. I truly do. Like the Kardashians, dark brown hair, tan skin like Kim Kardashian, and she is an autumn. Like, she looks good in oranges and warm browns and things like that. But then Kylie Jenner is a natural brunette, but she has really pale skin. She looks better in like plums. Like, she's more of a winter. Like, remember when Kylie Jenner had blue hair and she wore a lot of like plum makeup looks, like the plum 90s lip shades? And she looked so good in that era because she wore a lot of like cool toned colors. Like, I truly think Kylie Jenner is a winter, but she tries to be an autumn, but she's a winter, you know? So I don't know. So that is it, you guys. Let me know if you've done your color mapping and if you feel like it helps you do your makeup better. And also let me know if you read any of these books, or if you want to read these books now that I talked about them. I'd be very, very interested, because I know that sometimes I have like no interest in a book until one specific person reviews it and they make me so interested in it. Let me know if any of these books like sparked your interest. And I will get to the other books because I didn't get to all of them. I haven't done a wrap up in so long, but I will do the other ones in my next wrap up video, which hopefully won't be too far away. So yeah, we'll see. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!